In this week's video, we're going to be taking a look at why it is now game over for the UK housing market and the UK house price crash cannot be stopped. So for the past 9 months or so since I've been talking about this house price crash, there has been some debate, or you could make points, valid points, that potentially the crash would not happen if X or Y happened. And the main two things were, if inflation suddenly come down quickly, which we know isn't happening, that the Bank of England wouldn't put rates up as much as they have, and they'd also bring rates down. All of a sudden, affordability would be okay, and the crash would not happen. So now it's very clear both of those things are ruled out. That is not changing anytime soon. And last week, the Bank of England hiked interest rates to 5%, which is the first time we have seen the 5% interest rate since way back in September 2008. Now, just imagine a year ago, if someone told you that the Bank of England base rate was going to be at 5% and they aren't done yet. A lot of people wouldn't have believed the person that was making those claims. I, being honest, wasn't certain we were going to get 5% when I thought the crash was coming. So back in August time when I sold my house, I thought 3-4% would be enough to start causing the damage. I thought 5% was potentially optimistic. So to be at 5% and likely to go higher, the damage is now done. Even if inflation starts to come down, these base rates are here to stay for a period of time, a long enough period of time to do the real damage. So that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. I've got a few tabs that I want to show you just to really drive home the point now, is that it does not matter what happens from this point onwards. The damage has now been done. Any doubt that was there over the past 6 to 9 months, that doubt has gone. The narrative has shifted. There is fear in the market. There is panic in the market. And these prices are only heading in one direction. So the base rate at 5%. Again, just process that. People never imagined after 15 years, this became the new normal, that we're back at 5% and potentially going higher. The next thing, and this is what is causing the base rate to keep going up, is inflation. And it's not just general inflation that we've been talking about for the past year or two. It is the core inflation. This is what is spooking the markets. That core inflation is now the issue. They weren't that worried about inflation because it was supply side, i.e. it was the cost of goods coming into the country. Now they're worried about core inflation. So they are worried it's because people are, rightly so, asking for pay rises, and also the service sector, the cost of services. And as the UK economy is predominantly service-based, the cost of services have gone up so much. So our core inflation is spooking the markets, it's spooking the Bank of England, and it's spooking the government. And that's why they went 0.5% last week, and they are expecting to go higher later on in the year. The next thing as well is inflation. Even if inflation does start to come down, remember that this has had a compounding effect. Inflation hasn't been going on for 12 months. It's been going on for the past 2 years, really. And if we show an example of this, let's say, I don't know, £1,000, what that would have been worth in 2021. And then over the past 2 years, that same goods would now cost you £1,177, which is 17.7% cumulative inflation. And we're not even at the peak, really. The cumulative inflation is probably going to pass 20% over the next few months. So just because the current inflation may be coming down, the damage has been done. And this is the point of this video. 15 to 20% inflation over 2 years. The damage has been done. People's disposable incomes are going to be destroyed. People just do not have the capacity, because inflation's done the damage, but also with base rates going up, mortgaged homeowners are just going to really, really struggle to have the money available to continue paying mortgages. If they're going from a 2 to 6% interest rate on that mortgage, will be going up over 50% per month. The next thing is, people have always believed that the government were going to step in and save the day. Now, the Daily Mail isn't the best source of information, but everyone was reporting the same thing. The government has ruled out bailing out the housing market. Now, this may only be a temporary stance because, we know the government likes to change its tune. This is what happened in Parliament last week. During Treasury questions in the Commons, former Minister Sir Jake Barry said, "People are very concerned with what is being described as the mortgage bomb about to go off. It is now time for him," and when he says him, he's referring to Jeremy Hunt, "to look at reintroducing a bold Conservative idea of mortgage interest relief at source." And this was Mr. Hunt's response. I listened to what he says carefully, but I think he will understand that those kind of schemes, which involve injecting large amounts of cash into the economy right now, would be inflationary. So much as we sympathise with the difficulties and will do everything we can to help people seeing their mortgage costs go up, we won't do anything that would mean we've prolonged inflation. So they've ruled out bailing out mortgaged homeowners. But he did say, so later this week, I'll be meeting the principal mortgage lenders to ask what help they can give to people struggling to pay more expensive mortgages and what flexibilities might be possible for families in arrears. And sure enough, he did have a meeting with various lenders, and this is what was agreed. Now, bear in mind, a lot of this isn't compulsory, but some of it is. If I can just find the relevant points. Borrowers may switch to an interest-only mortgage for 6 months or extend the mortgage term to reduce their monthly payments and switch back to their original term within the first 6 months. Both options can be taken without a new affordability check or affecting their credit score. So what they're saying there is you're going to get a 6-month window to either go interest-only or lengthen your mortgage term, but after 6 months, you're going to have to do something about it, otherwise it's going to impact your credit score. So I would say anyone in that position is probably going to take that 6 months window as an opportunity to sell. So rather than getting repossessed, if you've got the option to go interest only or extend the term and sell, I think potentially you're going to have some very, very motivated sellers coming to the market. And the bit I've highlighted at the bottom there, borrowers will not be forced to have their homes repossessed within 12 months from their first missed payment. And as much as that is a positive thing for homeowners, really that is to the benefit of the bank. If the bank repossess the house, they're probably going to sell it for less. Whereas they say if they make things not difficult, but if they work with the homeowner, but still always have repossession in their back pocket, they know that the homeowners are probably going to sell anyway and probably get a better price for it than they would if they repossessed the property. So the government have ruled out a bailout, but they've encouraged banks to be more flexible with regards to repossessions and also with regards to people being able to adjust their term to give them a bit of a leeway. And everything that's been happening over the past couple of weeks with inflation remaining high, with core inflation going up, with the Bank of England making a 0.5% interest rate hike, and all of these stories about should the government bail out homeowners and all of the stories around the mortgage crisis, as I'm going to show you here, is what we're seeing is just so many negative news stories. And this is just going to have the impact of spooking the market, creating fear and panic in the market. And that's just going to have a cascading effect on sellers looking to sell the home and looking to reduce their prices. So the narrative that is out there has shifted. It's not like at the start of the year where there was still some hope and optimism that all of this was just temporary because of the mini budget. People are now accepting on a mass scale that this is a big problem and that there is a serious correction happening in UK house prices. And if we go to the official house price index, I'm going to blow this up, and I've talked about this before. This is my favorite chart out of all of the HPIs. This is from the ONS, and this is where we currently are at the moment. We actually ticked up month on month in April, but if you look at this compared to 2008, how similar does this look? You have the initial drop, a little blip, and then the meat of the drop. And this, if you have to ask my confidence of this, I would say I'm at 99%. We are here, and this is where we're going. The only difference is I don't think we're going to stop here this time. I think the drop will be bigger because we can't bail it out with low interest rates and we can't bail it out with quantitative easing like we did in 2008. Basically, we bailed out the whole global economy, the Western economy in 2008 with low interest rates and mass quantitative easing. And 15 years later, that bill is becoming due. So we are going to be paying the pain for all of the growth, but also the unpaid pain that we didn't get to fully experience here. But this is where I believe we are at the moment. The other thing to keep in mind, as I was just talking about with the fear and panic in the media, these stories are going to get even worse over the next 6 months as the annual house price drops are going to get greater, even if house prices don't fall any more from where they are today. Now, that sounds something crazy to say, and I, of course, expect house prices will fall further than they are today. But at the moment, the ONS figures, I think they're still showing 3 or 4% up year on year because they're comparing to April last year. So April last year was there. Now, what's going to happen as we go towards September, which was the peak, so September 22 was the ONS official peak. When we compare that with September 2023, which is likely to be down here, they're going in opposing directions. you've got the house prices from last year still going up, whilst this year's is still going down. So all it means is more dramatic stories about the annual growth, that gap getting ever larger purely because of the lag in the statistics. So we've got to wait. So at the moment we're reporting for April 2023 and we're in June. So we won't see September 2023 until November 2023. So I think November is when you're going to see the biggest year-on-year full figure this year, because September 2022 was the peak, and then they're going to both start going down together. I hope that makes sense. So the damage is done from that perspective. The house prices going in different directions, last year's peak versus the current prices at the moment going in different directions, ensures just more mainstream media narrative that is going to be very, very fearful and very, I would say, dramatic over the next 6 months. And finally, I always come back to these are the swaps, and I'm looking at the 2-year swaps today, and we are above 6%. That is absolutely crazy that 2-year swaps are above 6%, which is back above where we got with the mini budget. And if we look at that over the last 18 months, look at that. These are what the swaps are doing. So interest rates are here to stay. The damage is done. And now we sit back and watch as, unfortunately, the housing market collapses over the rest of this year and well into 2024. So what I'm going to do now is pop up a video showing you all the potential Rightmove red flags to keep an eye out for if you're a seller or a buyer, and I'll see you guys over there.